Please accept our profound apologies for that power interruption. It's quite inadvertent sometimes under these circumstances. Anyway, I'll proceed reading the text. Like I said earlier, the white paper therefore reflects very wide and diverse views of all stakeholders in this very important process. During the Commission sitting, and in addition to the work on the white paper, the government carried out certain key interim measures. In the area of accountability, the government initiated the criminal proceedings against 9 former NIA top brass for the murder of Solo Sandeng and the torture of some supporters of the United Democratic Party, UDP. Judgment is expected to be delivered in that case in due course. The government also initiated criminal proceedings and secured a guilty verdict against Yankuba Toure for the murder of Usman Koro Sise. In addition, the government, in collaborating with the United States of America, Switzerland, and Germany in the prosecution of perpetrators identified by the TRRC in its inquiry. In the area of reparations, the government, noting the importance of making reparations available for victims, commenced consultations through a victim-led process for the development of a new law that will create an independent body to serve as a successor body to the TRRC's Reparations Committee. These consultations are ongoing, and it is hoped that these laws will be ready for tabling before the National Assembly at its next session. The above are a clear demonstration of government's commitment to the TRRC process. It is important to note that the government has committed a considerable amount of effort into this white paper and believes it constitutes a clear and comprehensive framework for the implementation of the TRRC report, as well as for the attainment of the objectives of the transition process. The government acknowledges the importance of making information on the implementation process widely available in order to ensure broad participation. The government intends to implement a robust communication strategy that will close the information gap, enhance access to information, and ensure the popularization of the TRRC report and the government white paper to the grassroots. I thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, government spokesperson, for that statement. Now we're going to the main item on today's event, which is the statement by the Honorable Attorney General, Minister of Justice, as well as the release of the white paper. Honorable Attorney General, you have the floor.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, represented by the Deputy Speaker, members of Cabinet who are here present, His Excellency, former Vice President, Honorable Hussein Udabo, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, our international partners who are here present, representatives of the CSOs and victim-led organizations, the media, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols respectfully observed. Today marks another great milestone in our country's transition justice journey as we release the government's white paper on the report of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. In 2016, His Excellency President Adama Barrow campaigned on the promise to institute a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to inquire into the atrocities and gross human rights violations committed by the government of the former President Yahya Jammeh. In 2017, on the instructions of the President, the Attorney General's Chambers and Ministry of Justice set to work towards implementing this objective. This culminated into the enactment of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commissions Act, which was assented to on the 13th of January 2018. The Commission began its public sittings later that year and on November 25, 2021, submitted its final report to the President. In line with the TRRC Act, the government released the entire report, and we set to work on the white paper through a consultative and inclusive process. Following this consultative process, which the government spokesperson has extensively outlined in his earlier statement, I am glad to say we now have a white paper. The white paper represents government's position on the recommendations of the TRRC, as well as our proposed implementation plan. I am proud to say this white paper is unprecedented in its scope and content. Out of 265 recommendations made by the Commission, the government made only 2 outright rejections, leaving the rest of the recommendations earmarked for implementation in one form or another. An acceptance rate of over 95% or more. All recommendation is unprecedented in the history of truth commissions, and I am convinced that we now have a clear roadmap towards reconciliation, justice, reparation, and ensuring non-recurrence. The TRRC report, by and large, sets out in much detail an accurate historical record of the violations and human rights abuses that took place under the government of former President Yahya Jammeh. We must, however, admit that the sum of the conditions that made it possible for these atrocities to be committed still exist. This truth-seeking process will therefore be futile if we do not put in place long overdue comprehensive legislative and institutional reforms. The implementation of the TRRC's recommendation is therefore anchored on a broad-based reform which are at the center of the white paper. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, during this review, it has come clear that sexual and gender-based violence, SGV, was a recurring theme in human rights abuses and violations committed between 1994 and 2017. The government lays special emphasis on the TRRC's recommendations on SGBV and recognizes that SGBV was and continues to be widely prevalent in the Gambia. The government further notes that many acts that constitute SGBV are not seen as a violation due to the patriarchal nature of society, which accepts discrimination against women and girls and shames victims of SGBV into silence. The government is therefore committed to investing more on research, education, sensitization and outreach and training, behavioral change and psychosocial support to address SGBV, particularly for vulnerable communities. Of particular concern to government is the alarming number of enforced disappearances that occurred under the direction of the former President Jammeh and the continued suffering of the families who up till this day are unaware of the whereabouts of their loved ones or their remains. The government is committed to working with key partners in finding the bodies of victims of enforced disappearances and bringing closer to their families. There is no doubt that the country has gone through a very traumatic experience and is in dire need of individual and collective healing as well as reconciliation, not just with the perpetrators of these human rights violations, but with our past as a nation. We must forge ahead to build a strong and resilient society, and to do so quickly. Hence, we cannot continue to dwell on the past. I must, however, hasten to add that reconciliation must be balanced with the need to ensure accountability, and that perpetrators who bear the greatest responsibility for human rights abuses are to face justice and answer for their crimes. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the government takes cognizance of the fact that reparations are a central part of reconciliation process and is committed to ensuring life-transforming reparations are provided to victims of these human rights violations. While there is a tendency to always equate reparation to monetary compensation, I am of the view that for reparations to be effective, it must, in addition to monetary compensation, extend to physical rehabilitation, restoration of civil and political rights, and the provision of education and health care for victims. The government has previously made available $50 million to the TRRC for payment of interim reparation and has earmarked over $150 million in this year's budget for reparations. The government shall continue to work towards mobilizing additional financial resources for this process. It is important to note that despite the comprehensive nature of the TRRC process, it is likely that not all victims of human rights violations under the previous government has been identified. The Ministry of Justice, in close consultation with the victims, is working on a victims bill to explore the best avenue for addressing the issue of reparations. My ministry will continue to work towards putting in place independent structures for the continuous evaluation and identification of victims and to administer a reparation scheme. We are gathered today full of hope for a better tomorrow. Today, however, is also a somber reminder of the traumatic event that occurred between 1994 and 2017. We must therefore not forget many victims of these violations, especially those who lost their lives. Bearing that in mind, I am pleased to announce His Excellency the President's decision and that of his government to rename the 22nd Arch to Never Again Memorial Arch. In honor of the victims of gross human rights abuses and violations under the regime of the former President Jammeh. The government plans to renovate the arch and erect a plaque with the names of victims of Jammeh regime. It is our hope that this memorial may be repurposed as a fitting reminder that never again shall we allow such heinous abuses and violations in our beloved country. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, the release of the white paper today is by no means the end of this process, but the beginning of the most important phase, which is the implementation. Irrespective of your stance, whether as a government, political party, CSO, media organization, or victim-led organization, we are all stakeholders in this process, and as such must work together in ensuring an effective and successful implementation of the recommendations. The slogan "Never Again" summarizes our dreams and aspirations for the future, but we must ensure that it does not only remain as a slogan, but it's translated into concrete action. The implementation will therefore be transparent and inclusive with clear timelines and measurable outcomes. Rest assured that government is fully committed to implementation of as outlined in the white paper. We have been given a unique opportunity to change the trajectory of our dear nation, and posterity will judge us by our actions. Now that we have the white paper, it is important that implementation begins in earnest. We recognize that the integrity of the implementation process is anchored on the men and women in the driving process. In that light, we note that certain individuals who had been adversely mentioned by the Commission continue to serve in various areas of public and security services. The government shall take steps for their immediate suspension from service while we work on lawful means to effect their dismissal, termination, compulsory retirement as each case may require. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as earlier mentioned, the government places greater importance on justice and accountability for human rights violations committed during the regime of ex-President Yahya Jammeh. However, effectively investigating and prosecuting international crimes such as torture, mass murder, and enforced disappearances is complex, and it requires specialist expertise, which our domestic institutions, which do not ordinarily deal with such cases and must also manage their normal domestic caseload, do not have the capacity or experience to undertake. It is therefore preferable to establish separate specialist accountability structures that can be annexed to or embedded into the domestic legal system and mandated to perform those functions through the effective use of relevant advocates, investigators, appropriate experts, and skilled support staff. In this regard, it is in this regard that I will be setting up a special prosecution division under my office to be headed by a special prosecutor. This division will have investigative and prosecutorial authority over all offenses recommended for prosecution by the TRRC. In the same vein, the government intends to create a special judicial framework within our domestic court system for the prosecution of perpetrators. The court shall be located within the Gambia with the option of holding sittings in other jurisdictions based on the exigencies of each case. This option balances the need to prioritize local ownership and victim participation with security concerns and witness protection requirements. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I must at this point express our gratitude to all our partners and actors who have aided in making this process a success. I wish to thank most especially our political party leaders for the key role you have played throughout the transitional justice process, and hope we can continue to count on your support as we move towards the implementation stage. Leaders of all political parties will receive their complimentary copies of the white paper today. I also wish to thank all our partners, multilateral and bilateral, who have supported us and continue to support us through this process, especially the United Nations Peacebuilding Fund for the support throughout the transitional justice process, and the American Bar Association, who are the implementing arm of the USAID project, whose support has been crucial in the timely delivery of this white paper. On behalf of government and the people of the Gambia, I would like to thank the chairman and commissioners, as well as staff of the TRRC, for their invaluable service rendered to the nation. We cannot forget also to thank all witnesses who cooperated with the TRRC and the entire citizenry at large for yet again doing it our Gambian way. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this government understands that the duty of the state to investigate and bring to justice the perpetrators of gross human rights violations is a duty that it owes not only towards victims, but also towards society as a whole. Impunity is a kind of incentive that we are not prepared to serve perpetrators. Let us be clear about this. Those who contemplate committing gross human rights violations must also have no doubt that one day society would hold them accountable for their actions. Their resolve to commit these atrocities cannot be stronger than our collective will as a society to hold them to account. Notwithstanding, it is our desire to create an environment based on holding perpetrators accountable through proceedings based on the highest national and international standards of due process, where right to fair and speedy trial before a competent impartial body will be guaranteed. In conclusion, therefore, I wish to reiterate government's unwavering commitment to the implementation of the TRRC report as set out in this white paper, with a view to ensuring reconciliation and national healing, accountability and justice for the victims of gross human rights abuses and violations, the provisions of reparation for victims, broad institutional reforms, and ensuring non-recurrence. On that note, thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that speech. You will note we have the copies of the white paper available. The white paper contains 173 pages. It has 600 paragraphs, and it contains 265 recommendations. The white paper is structured according to the 17 thematic areas that were released by the TRC and contains supplementary chapters on reparations, reconciliation, memorialization, and amnesty. Without further ado, we'll proceed to distribute certain copies. I'd like to call a representative of the victims, given the importance that the government attaches to this process. The Honorable Attorney General will hand over complimentary copies on behalf of the victims. Aisatu Kani. I'd like to hand over. I would like to call on the representative of the political parties first, His Excellency Honorable Hussein Udabo. I'd like to call on the representative of the BII party, Honorable Sidi Ajata. The representative of the NRP, Honorable Samba Jallo. Representative of the NPP. Honorable Demba Sabali. Representative of the PPP, Honorable Keba Jallo. The Deputy Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces. The Director of Prisons. Representative of the Gambia Police Force. Excellency, the U.S. Ambassador to the Gambia. His Excellency, the EU Ambassador to the Gambia. Her Excellency, the United Nations Resident Coordinator. Representative of the United Kingdom Embassy. A representative of the Turkish ambassador. The President of the Supreme Islamic Council. The representative of the Gambia Christian Council. Did somebody come? Mr. Papsain, representing the media for complimentary copies for the media. Did they confirm?
Yes,
They confirmed the SAS there?
I will signal you. Let me confirm.
African Union. Representative of the African Union in the Gambia. Yes. In their absence, the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission.
Clerk of the National Assembly is here for National Assembly.
Representing the members of parliament, the clerk of the National Assembly.
Okay. You have 6 copies. Your office.
The ambassador of the Republic of Senegal to the Gambia. The representative of the ambassador of the Republic of Ghana to the Gambia. And the ambassador of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the Gambia. Okay. A representative of the American Bar Association. There's a clash. The resident representative of the UNDP, United Nations Development Program. A representative of Tango, coalition of NGOs.
I think that's it. So, yes. Any party in statement? Any other political party that's in the hall? Any other political party that's in the hall? Yes. Yeah.
Is there any other political party in the hall representative of the APRC? Representative of the APRC. Representative of the State Intelligence Service.
He said he was there. He's coming.
The State Intelligence Service.
He's coming.
Representative of the Gambia Bar Association. A representative of the NUP political party.
Any political party that is represented.
Representatives of any political parties who are still in the hall can come forward for a copy, complimentary copy. Okay. The National Agency for Legal Aid. National Agency for Legal Aid.
Which one?
The GANU Party.
Face the camera.
International Center for Transitional Justice, ICTJ. The President of the Gambia Press Union. Just for
his personal. Oh, okay. Who is that?
he's coming. I'd like to announce the presence of the former Vice President, Her Excellency Ajat Tambajang.
Copy for her.
And Honorable Attorney General present a complimentary copy to Her Excellency, the former Vice President. And finally, the Director General of the National Library.
We will get them more copies. What the printed copies are. I would like to apologize on behalf of the ministry. These were meant to be complimentary copies. We have not got sufficient copies yet for broader distribution. So, of course, if you are in a launching, you attend a launching, you will expect to grab a copy and go home with it. We'll have to apologize for that. I saw the MD of GRTS. I think they also need to get it as a national broadcaster. You got a copy already. Okay, that's fine. For the rest, we will soon make it available on our website as we did with the report. In the meantime, if you are in a haste to read it, it's already gazetted and is with the national printing. So you can just pass by and grab a copy from the national printing if you want to quickly have an access. We'll bring it live on our website hopefully early next week, not immediately, but hopefully next week. So those who want to grab a copy, like I said, you can grab a copy at the national printing. On behalf of the Ministry of Justice and also on behalf of the government, I wish to now thank all of you for finding time to join us this morning for the release of the white paper. It is now a public document. You are all invited to a light refreshment. And please, there is a press conference immediately after this. Find time to join us in the press conference, and then the journalists will be at liberty to ask me questions, and I will respond to the questions that the journalists will be asking. Thank you very much.